This is my audience. Whoops. Just show. Okay. I want to thank my neighbors for being my audience again. I really appreciate it very much. And I hope that you'll find this interesting because it's something I feel really strongly about. And I'm going to turn this way because last time I was like looking kind of funny. All right. Ron, do you want to turn your chair around so you can see?
I don't think I can turn this around.
Sure you can, yeah. Jim, can you come and help?
How far you want me to turn it?
Well, just so you can, so you won't have your back to me.
Oh, I see. Oh, my goodness.
All right. Thank you. All right.
If y'all hear a snore, you know I'm asleep.
Think about your favorite foods. Now, think about a world without those favorite foods in it. According to Sustain, a food facts website, without honeybees, many plants, including food plants, would die out. So what I'm going to present to you tonight is the scientific evidence that shows us that our honeybees are in trouble and that there are things that we can do to help them survive. Since this is to be a short speech, I'm only going to cover 3 main points, and they're going to be: number 1, honeybees are the world's most important single species of pollinator. Without them, most crops cannot be pollinated and would not survive. Number 2, honeybees worldwide are dying at an alarming rate. And number 3, while this is a complex problem, there is one proven cause that other countries have addressed, but our government is dragging its feet on. As an organic gardener for more than 20 years, I have a great respect for honeybees and for healthy soil that causes a symbiotic relationship between your plants and the beneficial insects, and it allows the plants to be strong enough to ward off the damaging insects and diseases. And so that's why I'm an organic gardener, and I don't use any toxic chemicals or pesticides on my plants. And you know how beautiful my gardens are in the summertime. And so that's kind of the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Recently, Cornell University shared the news of a major fossil discovery. A 100 million year old bee was found embedded in amber in a mine in Burma. Now this was significant because they didn't think that they had honeybees on this earth that long ago. It's almost twice as long as they thought that honeybees were on our planet. Keep that thought. 100 million years ago, honeybees were here pollinating crops for humankind, which would then be born later. All right, number 1, honeybees are the world's most important single species of pollinator in natural ecosystems. As you know, politics surrounds environmental issues in this country. And so I'm not going to be giving you my opinion tonight. I'm going to be sharing with you the science that backs up the things that I will be saying. 1/3 of our food is pollinated primarily by honeybees, also by birds and by butterflies, but primarily by honeybees. These are foods that cannot be grown without bees, and see if any of these are the favorites that you were thinking of. Apples, almonds, blueberries, cherries, avocados, cucumbers, onions, grapefruit, melons, peppers, and strawberries are just a few examples that we would not have if we didn't have honeybees. Bees may be acting as a canary warning system to us humans. Number 2, honeybees worldwide are dying at an alarming rate. In the last 13 years alone, something is destroying the honeybee population in dramatic numbers. It's called colony collapse disorder. Have any of you ever heard of it? Some of you have. What could possibly have made such a change in our environment in 13 years? Remember, they've been around for 100 million years. Colony collapse disorder, or CCD, was first named in 2006 when beekeepers began reporting adult honeybees were simply and mysteriously disappearing from the hive almost all at the same time. A scientist named Michael Eisenstein reported in Nature magazine in 2016 that beekeepers across the United States reported losing 44% of their honeybees to colony collapse disorder in the previous 12 months alone. That's pretty dramatic. What if it was discovered that what was damaging the bees' immune system could be found in your garage or your carport or under your sink? That product is glyphosate, the active ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup. It's now the most widely used weed killer on the planet. Roundup was first registered in 1974, and there has now been a 100-fold increase in its use in the world. The United States Geological Survey documented that at least 283 million pounds of glyphosate was sprayed on American farmlands recently. Yet, current safety standards are still using data that is over 30 years old. What's wrong with this picture? They don't even understand the actual hazard. A Harvard study showed a link between pesticides and CCD, or colony collapse disorder. So have you had a chance to look at the map that I sent around, the two sides? On the one side, you will see the incidence of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'm trying to see the date that I had on there. All right, I don't know if you were able to read the heading. So in the first picture, where it was very, very few cases, this was 1950 to 1969. And you could see that there were just a handful of cases of this cancer in our country. Fast forward to 1970, and the population of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patients drastically multiplied. Yes? Oh, we have a visual aid right here. That is terrible. Thank you for sharing that. I hope that you're going to be okay. This shows the amount of increase of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in just a 25-year period since Roundup has been widely used on our crops. This National Institute of Health report also shows the highest rate of death from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is people between 65 and 84, people who have been exposed to glyphosate the longest. Very important and very significant. The University of Texas in ScienceDaily.com has reported that chemicals in the glyphosate family have been connected to the decimation of the bees. This chemical acts as a nerve agent on bees and has been found in 75% of the honeybees around the world. Glyphosate exposure in pregnant women has shown a high correlation of shortened pregnancy rates. So their pregnancy does not last as long as it's supposed to. And as you know, the baby needs that time to develop normally. In the study, 93% of the pregnant women showed glyphosate in their systems. Another correlation has also been found in men, finding that glyphosate exposure on sperm concentration and reproductive toxicity rates, and that was by a scientist named Wenyan, as well as in children's cancers. So this has been kind of across the board. An independent FDA-approved lab tested 29, this is kind of shocking, was for me, 29 common foods in the United States diet and found alarming levels of glyphosate in such brands as Cheerios, Ritz crackers, Oreos, and Doritos, among others. So in addition to harming bees, it's getting into our food supply. Still, another independent lab has shown human vaccines contain glyphosate. And you know the controversy surrounding vaccines, and they're trying to figure out what is causing these problems in children. I haven't heard of any studies that have linked this until I found this one. There's also convincing evidence that glyphosate and possibly one or two other chemicals can cause cancer in animals. I think most of you have pets. You're going to want to hear this. According to the Household Products Database, the following pet products contain dangerous chemicals for pets. Hart's Advanced Care 1-in-1 Reflecting Flea and Tick Collar for cats and dogs. Also, Hart's Flea and Tick Sprays and Residential Insect Control Sprays. Over 20 countries have banned glyphosate from their borders, and yet the United States has yet to do so. Even India thought that was pretty significant. Why is it banned? Most are a result of the 2015 International Agency for Research on Cancer report on glyphosate. Like the World Health Organization report, this document concluded that glyphosate is a probable human carcinogen, meaning it causes cancer. It also concluded that glyphosate exposure causes DNA damage in human cells. Other glyphosate studies have linked the chemical to a number of other health issues, including Alzheimer's disease, autism, birth defects, various cancers, celiac disease, heart disease, inflammatory bowel syndrome, liver disease, and Parkinson's disease. Isn't that shocking? I mean, we all know people who are suffering from these diseases. Glyphosate residues have been found in soil over a year after it's been applied, after its application. Glyphosate exposure has been found to damage or reduce the population of beneficial insects, fish, birds, and earthworms. So it's having a dramatic effect all over our environment. So with all of this evidence, what does the pesticide industry have to say? Are you interested in knowing? Well, if you go to the National Pesticide Information Center website, they report accurately that the cause is complex and the result of multiple factors, including habitat loss, lack of genetic diversity, and parasites. But they hide pesticide exposure in the middle of the list, hoping you won't notice, and not admitting that it is one of the primary factors threatening the lives of our honeybees. What they also don't explain is that the other things they mentioned, such as habitat loss and parasites, can also be directly or indirectly connected to glyphosate. The manufacturer, Monsanto, claims that it would kill plants and plants alone, and that it was harmless to humans and animals. In conclusion, so for 100 million years, honeybees have survived and been pollinating crops, including food plants, but just in the past 19 years, we are watching the honeybees die out. While this is a complex problem, there is one proven common denominator that other countries have addressed, but our government is dragging its feet on, and that is glyphosate. To recap, number one, honeybees are our most important pollinator. Number two, honeybees are dying at an alarming rate. And number three, one of the main reasons for this is glyphosate, the active ingredient in the weed killer Roundup, and a few others, but that's the primary one. You might think to yourself, I am only one person, a drop in the bucket. What could I possibly do to help? But there are things that each of us can do. First, make sure that you don't use Roundup in the environment. Second, whenever possible, buy organic produce because organics are grown without chemical sprays and pesticides. And you can plant a pollinator garden. This is a garden of all different colors and shapes of plants, especially flowers, that would be food for the birds and the bees and the insects that pollinate our crops. And so this would be a welcome to them as they hopefully would come to visit our gardens. Toxic pesticides have been targeted as one major cause of CCD, either directly or indirectly, as they weaken the bees' immune system. These same substances have been connected to human cancers and other serious diseases. Knowing the way that cancers can decimate families, isn't it worth taking a closer look? Knowledge is power. As Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. This planet belongs to all of us, and we can all make a difference. Thank you for your attention.